don't think the timing could actually be any better for us to have this conversation. So right now, where things stand, on October 1st, the league offered a agreement or offer, they made an offer with an $850K max, which would be about a 3.5x raise in salaries. But the hinge point for the players is revenue sharing. This deal does not include the league will say, well, at a certain point, if you hit a certain revenue target, revenue sharing will be triggered. Nobody knows what that target is, which is kind of just thematic of the whole situation. The WNBA has never been very transparent about its books, which, I think that's to their benefit, right? Because I think the reality is if the league wasn't making money and they wanted to make a case for the players to not make a lot of money, they would be a lot more transparent about their books, right?
That's the oldest playbook. Mm-hmm. That's the oldest play in the book. Looking at the NBA in the 1970s, especially even when they had to come before Congress and make the argument that, hey, we're not a monopoly. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we should have a Sherman antitrust exemption in order to merge with the American Basketball Association, the rival league at that time. They wouldn't even open their books for Congress. And the economists at that time said, well, based on the information, the kind of spotty information that we have, actually some of the claims that the team owners were making at that time, that they weren't making any money, that they were, just one step, away from being a humanitarian organization, bringing basketball to the masses, that actually was not the reality of what they were seeing in the books. In fact, they were seeing that even the teams that were struggling were still mostly breaking even, and some of the big market teams were making a ton of money. And that somebody like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, one of the big players at the time, was actually not making the percentage of revenue that he should have been. Like, he could have been paid even more based on the amount of value that he was bringing to the league. So for me, I always just kind of go, this is like the hamster wheel of sports, where sports leagues claim that they are humanitarian, that they are losing money, and
we know how charitable billionaires are. Intrinsically, right?
They want the players, to bear the brunt of any kind of issues with the league, and often, the books show differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also with the current revenue target that the league would require and does currently require, the WNBA, as listeners of the show know, has a very strange and unique structure to its ownership, where 42% of the league is owned by the NBA, the 42% is owned by the WNBA owners, and 16% is owned by an investment group that invested in a capital raise in 2021 for $75 million. Those numbers, by the way, I think we should add that they're not quite accurate anymore, or won't be, as expansion teams get into the fold as well. They're going to be more, different, like as more WNBA teams get added to the mix, their percentage of league ownership will change and increase. But under the current structure, where you have NBA and WNBA owners that own both teams, there would be owners that actually get paid twice before the players see any of the growth revenue in the league under the current proposal and under the current conditions as well, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I also think it's kind of a ridiculous statement to say, because our revenue is smaller, therefore we can't share it. It's like if we went out for a coffee and I said, oh, I'm only going to get a muffin, but I would have to get a cake before I could give you a bite of it. It doesn't logically make a lot of sense. And even if we, again, look back historically.
Let's work with his metaphor for a second, right? It's like you are the ingredients for the muffin, because the players in this situation are not only the labor, they are the product. So you are the ingredients, you're providing the ingredients, you are making this muffin. And unless you make a cake as well, I get the muffin. And then once I'm done with the muffin, you can have the crumbs.
Yeah, the crumbs, or maybe, like if there was a little bit of sprinkles on top of it, maybe.
Maybe. Sorry, but keep going.
Maybe.
Keep going. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, and like, I mean, from a metaphorical point of view, an ethical point of view, it's questionable. But even if we look again back to that late 60s, early 70s moment in NBA history, the NBA wasn't what it is today. I mean, we think that the NBA, if you're a younger fan and you don't really know about the history of the NBA, you think, wow, like this is the time of, players making gobs of money, not just in terms of their salary, but in terms of endorsements, et cetera, et cetera. They're on TV all the time. But that just was not the case for the NBA, even into the 1970s and early 1980s. This was, a league that was a very distant third to the MLB and the NFL. And, the NBA finals even used to run on tape delay, like really into, far into the history of the NBA. And at the time, the team owners, again, played the kind of, if we give you more money, you will destroy the game of basketball. The entire league will collapse. Your rising salaries are ruining professional basketball as we know it. But, the players at the time were very savvy, and they said, listen, we've seen you expand into markets that were questionable, over expansion. We've seen how you don't know how to market the game. We've seen you get terrible TV deals. We've seen you think so small, when in fact, basketball in that decade was initially called the sport of the 70s. Like, it was beginning to boom in popularity, but the kind of short-sighted, small-minded thinking of the NBA top brass really kind of kept it, kind of a marginal player in professional sports. So you can kind of see the same kind of thing happening here. And I mean, truthfully, and I'm going to say an awful pun here, athletes really just want more skin in the game that they play. I mean, that's what the players are asking for. They're not asking for a handout. They are asking for revenue that they have. If we take the muffin metaphor, they've generated all of the muffin. And so they just want a piece of it.
Yeah, but the owners are saying we own the bakery, so we get everything.
Yeah.
which is how it works in America, unfortunately. But this is something that I think the athletes can kind of be in the forefront of being part of a huge movement.
It is the way that it works in America, but I think Unrivaled is showing that that's not the only model, and what happens when the players make the game? Because the players are the game. So what if they actually make the game? That totally throws all of the kinds of typical relationships between players and owners, on its head. And I'm really happy to see this move in professional sports.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, I feel like it's one of those things, like, where there's a horseshoe effect where, communism and capitalism kind of meet in the same place when you start talking about equity. Like, Unrivaled is an equity league, which means that, right now, 40 players with Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart as the co-founders, obviously, at the top, have equity into Unrivaled, which is essentially going to make them a ton more money. But what it really is, it's the workers seizing the means of production is what's happening here, right?
I mean, it's a classic kind of cooperative, right? We have a great, cooperative bookstore in Baltimore. If you're ever around, go to Red Emma's. It's amazing. They're using that model, which really, has a very long history in the United States. And in fact, like, if we really want to take it back, this is one of the ways that abolitionists were trying to, organize to end slavery. They formed cooperatives where you could buy, cotton that wasn't picked by enslaved people. So this has a really long history, seizing the means of production, having a cooperative, collaborative structure of governance. Mm-hmm. It's there. It's just flies in the face, I think, of our understanding of the relationship between sports and capitalism, more broadly speaking. So more power to them. I think it's amazing.